There's breaking news out of Dallas today. The Mavericks will be without one of their stars, and the Bucks and Thunder throw cold water on trade speculation, but Locked On Lakers is talking about not one but two trade scenarios. That's all ahead today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts. From the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior writer for the Action Network, we've got Matt Moore. And from the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got Hayes. Okay, we've got a lot to get to in this episode. Interesting Embiid comments, Joel Embiid comments that I want to get to. We're going to talk Lakers trade scenarios. But first, we've got breaking news out of Dallas. As I said, Shams Charania of ESPN reporting that Luka Doncic will miss at least a week with a right wrist strain. Matt, where does this leave the Mavs in the short term, and can they survive without Luka and stay competitive in this brutal Western Conference?
I actually think so. They've played pretty well without him, and I don't think it's like, hey, Luka's out and they're finally moving the ball thing. Like, they just really do genuinely seem to be okay. Kyrie's been playing great. I think that's the big thing. If Kyrie slips at all, you're going to see the Mavericks kind of slide. But with their defense, with their depth, PJ Washington's back, and with how Kyrie's playing, I actually think they can probably get through this stretch. It's not going to be that long. My big take, though, is this probably does hurt their chances for the NBA Cup. They're in the group with Warriors and the Nuggets. They play the Nuggets on Friday without Luka. There's probably a good chance Nikola Jokic is back for that game. I think the NBA Cup, that group is going to either Golden State or Denver now, with Dallas likely out of it without Luka.
Yeah, this is why you have the depth that you have on this team, right? This is why you have another star like Kyrie there. Like, they should be able to weather the storm for a week without Luka. And now if it turns into more than that, okay, we can have a different conversation. But I think that they'll be fine here. They're just going to have to play as a team. They're going to have to lock in. They're going to need some big performances from Clay. But overall, I think that we've seen big performances from role players from Dallas dating back to last year during the playoffs when they needed the most. So you hope that you can rely on that again and they can just do it as a team.
Kyrie's been so good. Like, he might, like, he's at like he's playing again like an all NBA level. This is the best I've seen Kyrie play in a while. So if he's ready to do that, like, he can just take over for a while. And it's not like an indefinite thing, I don't think, with Kyrie at this point, but long enough for sure.
They're going to definitely need Kyrie if they're going to play better in the clutch than they have so far to start the season. That was the topic of interest before this news came out on Locked On Mavericks. Here's Nick Angstedt and Isaac Harris.
They were the best clutch team in the NBA last year. They had the best record, or up there with it, with the Lakers.
So right now they're 2-6 in the clutch, which is not good, Bob. But I think one of the most telling stats in the clutch for the Mavericks so far this season, not just the 2-6 record, they're 30th in the league, last in free throw attempts.
You hope that gets better, but it's one of the things that this offense is going to deal with Luka, who's going to get a bunch of free throws, hopefully, but he hasn't been attacking late in games because I think he's been kind of running out of gas in some of these games.
So you just heard it there, running out of gas. I know he's been dealing with several injuries, including maybe some knee issues as well to start the year. Fitness has been a concern. Is this an opportunity for Doncic to rest, recuperate, heal, and come back better and be a better clutch player for the Mavericks moving forward? Hayes.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, he's had a lot of minor injuries to start the season off. Nothing that's kept him out for as long as clearly what this is going to be. So, yeah, maybe some time away, maybe even not competing in the NBA Cup, which the NBA Cup has been really competitive, can allow him to heal his body up and get ready for a better run. So, I mean, we've seen this before. When a player has a lot of nagging injuries like this to start off the season, if it continues, eventually the big injury does come. And I'm sure that they want to try to avoid that as best as they can.
I'll disagree here because the problem is just like we don't have any evidence of like Luka being like, oh, I'm going to take this time and like getting like I'm going to get my great conditioning up. Also, I've heard he's dealing with a groin injury and that makes it hard. So like there's a problem here. He needs to rest and that's good. but the more that he rests, that's going to hurt his conditioning. And like that balance for him has always been kind of tough. Who among us, right? 5 of 13 in the clutch overall from the field, 3 of 9 from 3. He just hasn't been good enough. Now, a lot of those numbers I think are always a little wonky. I think clutch is a lot more luck than we give it credit for. But overall, I'm not sure that this is going to result in any sort of like huge bounce back performance for Luka. And if he misses a lot of time here, he's also going to start bumping up against the minutes, the games restriction for MVP. That's another impact we need to keep an eye on here.
Okay, the Mavericks not good in the clutch. The Philadelphia 76ers, they're not really good anywhere. Things are not all right in Philadelphia, and Luka not the only star injury to report. We've got Paul George from the Sixers hyperextending his knee. No, don't touch that podcast dial. Nothing wrong with your feed. It is the same hyperextension, the same knee injury that he had to begin the year, and he suffered that in last night's Sixers loss to the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's go to Locked On 76ers for more.
Paul George has that same hyperextension we saw earlier in the preseason. And Keith, he was out for an extended period of time. Can the 76ers handle having somebody like PG out once again? I don't think so. I don't see them being able to do that because they're already losing games and they haven't even really had this core three together throughout an entire game yet this season.
I mean, the problem is, it's like at this stage, it becomes a mental thing. And what I mean by that is it's like, wow, you mean to tell me he was getting ready, like Maxey was coming back, we was getting ready to go rolling, start, the next game he was going to play more minutes. And now all of a sudden he goes down again. Nick Nurse did say there was a chance that he could return to the game and to start stiffening up. And he believed there's no structural damage, right? But to me, you really won't know anything until tomorrow. Because then that's when he gets off the plane, he gets some rest. To me, it's just this team has been snake bitten.
Hayes, what's worse for the Sixers right now? Is it losing Paul George to injury or losing this game to a Grizzlies team without Ja and a number of their key role players?
Losing PG, yes, losing the game to the Grizzlies sucks, but they're going to lose a lot more games if this core three can't find a way to get on the same page and play any games together. So I would definitely say losing Paul George. And the way that this season is gone, there are only a handful of games with 15 games in. Or so for the Philadelphia 76ers, like the fact that you have not been able to get the 3 players that you're trying to build this thing around going forward on the court together at all yet, that's a much bigger deal than losing a game to the Memphis Grizzlies when you already have 13 losses. Like, more are going to just keep stacking up. And I tell you what, the Philadelphia 76ers, I believe, have I think it's top 6 protected pick, maybe to the OKC Thunder, if I'm correct on that. It may be looking more and more likely like the 76ers may be in the lottery. Maybe that's the best thing for this team going forward, because I tell you what, this does not seem like the team is going to be able to turn this thing around if injuries keep happening.
Why does it feel like there's like 15 different ways that OKC is going to wind up with Cooper Flag? Like, why it seems more and more like that's going to happen. Hey, I want to ask you something. I hear what you're saying about like if they're going to do the long term, but in the short term, your infrastructure's got to be good enough for you to be able to beat Memphis. You did have Embiid. Like, you've got to be able to have a good enough team structure. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of the leaks and everything coming. And there's conversations about the coaching staff is like, there's not a confidence in the game plan right now. And whether it's the players not being good enough or the coaches not getting the best out of them, I still feel like they weren't even really competitive in that game until a late push in that game. I'm of the opinion they got to, like, no matter who's out, right? If you've got at least one of the stars, you got to be able to at least have a chance to win that game. And it didn't feel like they did. Am I wrong there?
No, I mean, I could definitely understand where you're coming from there. Like, yeah, they should have still won this game, but like, this is a team that right now the morale's low, there's drama around the team. I'm not surprised that they lost to a Memphis Grizzlies team missing that many pieces. I just think that it's a bigger factor as far as their season overall being doomed. They just can't get these guys healthy.
You mentioned the drama there. There were some interesting comments from Joel Embiid after this loss to the Memphis Grizzlies. I want to get to those on the other side. I want some room to breathe on this because these comments are very interesting. But first, coming up, the Sixers are not all right, but a couple of struggling teams in the Midwest look just fine. OKC gets a big man back, and is Giannis the most dominant force in the NBA today? And later, the Lakers get more bad news at the center position. Is it time for Rob Pelinka to pick up the phone? That's ahead on Locked On NBA. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time makes buying tickets to your next event even easier, and I'm not just talking about sports. Game Time has great deals on concerts and events too, and with Game Time Picks, they gather up all the best deals and put them all in one place. And that's not all you can get. You can also get seat views, a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and they have the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Back here on Locked On NBA, I mentioned those comments from Joel Embiid about the meeting that the team had. And still a lot of talk about that team meeting that they had after the loss that preceded this one to the Grizzlies. Hour-long team meeting. Tyrese Maxey confronts Joel Embiid about the tardiness to team events. Here's what Embiid said, quote, "Whoever leaked that is a real piece of bleep. We talked about a lot of things. I don't want to get into detail, but that whole thing, that part of it, took probably 40 seconds. But it's Joel Embiid, so things will always get blown out of proportion. It's whatever, though. I'll take it. I'm the reason for everything, so I guess I'll take the blame for everything." Unquote. Wow, there is a lot there. Joel Embiid talking in the third person. Strange comments, Matt. What do you make of it?
I'm going to hold back. I've been critical of Joel in the past. I'm going to try and be empathetic here. I will say that his comments and general demeanor is somebody who is not in a good place. And it's very odd that it's like they had, when he was healthy last year, they were dominant. Like this team had a real title shot if he hadn't had the knee injury last year. And that's always going to kind of be the conversation, but it was especially true last year. And this year they do not have it. And the vibe is all off, and it does not feel like Embiid is contributing positively to try and pull them out of it. I just don't understand really the point or the value of being like, I guess I'll take the blame for everything. I just don't know if that doesn't seem like the best approach to me, Hayes.
Shut the hell up, Joel Embiid. Just shut up. Please, just shut the hell up. Like at some point, like heavy is the head that wears the crown, my boy. Like get over it. Yes, everything is whatever you get an unjust due amount of the blame. So what? Welcome to being a superstar in the NBA. Yes, it's gonna happen. Stop whining about it. Get out there and be on the court. And guess what? Last night was the closest you looked to actually looking like the Joel Embiid I remember. So maybe you needed it to light a fire under your butt. How about that?
I'm sure we're not done talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. I say that after every segment that we do, and it feels like since we started this show, we've done 1,000 segments on them, but they keep putting themselves back into the news. But I want to move on now to a couple of teams in the Midwest that are figuring it out, including the Milwaukee Bucks. After a 2-8 start, the Bucks were suddenly fending off trade chatter for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Well, no more. They've reeled off 4 wins in their last 5, in large part because of the Greek Freak. Let's hear from Locked On Bucks.
The score was 80-81 at one point in the fourth before Giannis took over and the Bucks were able to pull ahead. Strong fourth quarter, but I feel like we got to start with Giannis because what he did in that third quarter was spectacular. He had 25 of his 41 points there. The Bucks itself scored 29 points in that quarter. 25 of them were from Giannis.
Yeah, and honestly, I knew he was having a big quarter, but I didn't really process that it was 25. I mean, 25 in a quarter is crazy. Something about it felt a little more organic or something, but he was obviously in attack mode. You know, he wasn't really settling for a lot of mid-range shots, and no Patrick Williams in this game, who I think Patrick Williams, has generally been their best defender against Giannis over the years. He's out with an injury, and yeah, it just didn't feel like they had anybody that could really kind of hang with them, which, I mean, how many guys can hang with Giannis, period?
Say that.
Fair question.
There it is. I love it when the host of the show goes ahead and asks the question that I wanted to ask, which is Giannis the most dominant force in the NBA? Is there anyone that can stop this guy, Matt?
No. He is physically the most dominant player in the league. Now, like, Jokic impacts the game the most. I think Luka's skill set is probably up there with the best. There's all these guys. The league is full of amazing players, but this has been consistent over the last 5 years with Giannis. When I sit down and I watch the clips on him, you are just absolutely blown away by the physicality and his unstoppableness. He is so strong, so quick, the spin move, everything combines. And there's so many teams and fans that complain about that's an offensive foul. That's an offensive foul because they never watched anything before 2014 and all the Steph Curry prancing stuff. So it's like, this is physical basketball. This is what it looks like. Giannis is unstoppable from a physical domination standpoint.
I don't disagree with you at all. Like Giannis, nobody can stop Giannis 1 versus 1 stopping Giannis Antetokounmpo. No, like Matt has a better chance fighting Joel Embiid. That's what happens there. So no, like Giannis is special. Watching him last night and the rhythm that he got into, and the fact that he had more points in the paint than the entire Chicago Bulls team he did solo yesterday. Like when Giannis was playing with confidence, and even when the Bucks were struggling, it wasn't because Giannis wasn't performing. You're just getting a better overall impact. They're playing better defensively right now, and the Bucks are just finally starting to look like a team that actually cares. So that's a big thing with it. But Giannis, nobody can stop Giannis.
Let's head south to Oklahoma City, where Isaiah Hartenstein made his debut last night to an anxious but loud crowd of OKC faithful, desperate for someone over 6'6" tall to fill the paint. Here's Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder breaking down just how pivotal their new acquisition, Isaiah Hartenstein, was in the Thunder's bounce-back win.
He made history in his own right, Hartenstein did, with the debut record for rebounds in a game. 14 rebounds for him, 3 assists, 4 blocks, 3 turnovers, 13 points, and a game-high plus 16. He brought a new life to this roster, and Mark summed it up well postgame. He brought energy to this team. When you look at how this team started the game, they were on the wrong end of a 13-4 run. They were sloppy. They, had better effort, but not better results defensively. And it just was trending to be kind of a rinse and repeat of Tuesday night in San Antonio, a team you're thoroughly better than, but, struggled to overcome your shortcomings. But once Isaiah Hartenstein got put into this game, it was a whole new world.
A whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. Hayes, did you see enough in that debut to convince you that he's going to be able to help OKC stay in the hunt for the number 1 seed in the Western Conference in Chet's absence?
Absolutely. 13 points, 14 rebounds in 29 minutes for Isaiah Hartenstein, 4 blocks as well, like only 3 turnovers. Like Hartenstein came in and basically was exactly what everybody needed him to be. And he's still coming off the bench. Of course, he's going to rep up. I think he's going to get even better. He's going to figure out how to play with these teammates even better. This is exactly what they need. They needed some size. And the way that they've been able to play with lacking that size has been admirable. But now that they have it in a physical presence in Isaiah Hartenstein, I would not be surprised at all if the OKC Thunder are the number 1 seed in the Western Conference by the end of next week.
I think that when I watched this game, it was interesting because the Blazers actually kind of hung around in it. I was like, how are the Blazers kind of hanging around? You could tell that they're just kind of getting used to playing with new personnel. They're still missing, obviously, Chet. They're still trying to adjust there. But there was this sequence. There were 2 sequences in this game in the second and third quarters where it was Caruso and Hartenstein. And those 2, you could tell, were just singing, "You Never Had a Friend Like Me." Because, like, the combination of those 2 with their defensive aptitude was incredible. There was like a Hartenstein shuts down a player in the post, or it was Robert Williams, shuts him down in the post, dishes it out to Caruso. Caruso finds J-Dub for a 3. Caruso creates a steal, short roll, Isaiah Hartenstein, kick to the corner. Like, they do all these things that aren't going to show up in the box score, but together that combo is really exciting, I think, if you're an OKC fan.
Coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, the Lakers are one of several teams in desperate need of help at the center position, and there's no Isaiah Hartenstein waiting in the wings. There are 2 names who are prime candidates for this trade market, though. We'll tell you who they are and if they fit in LA next on Locked On NBA. Have you ever hit that moment when you knew it was time to get serious about your finances? Maybe it was saving up for a dream trip, maybe it was paying off a credit card, or just getting your financial life in order in general. That's where Chime comes in. With no monthly fees, no maintenance charges, and the fee-free overdraft up to $200, Chime has you covered for all of those uh-oh moments, whether it's withdrawing cash from over 50,000 fee-free ATMs or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Chime gives you the tools to make progress. Need a little help? Friends can even give you a boost to temporarily increase your overdraft limit, and when they do, you can return the favor. To date, Chime members have been spotted over $30 billion. Ready to make your fall finances greener? Open a Chime account in just 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. There's a free daily Locked On podcast for your favorite NBA team. Just search your favorite podcast app for Locked On and then your favorite team today. Okay, the Lakers now hold the NBA's longest winning streak, but questions about depth at center and on the wing cast doubt on how long it can last. Locked On Lakers debates which need should be addressed first.
I think you have to proceed as if Jared Vanderbilt is not going to be a player who takes the floor for you this season. You have to think about personnel. You have to think about trades. You have to think, December 15th is coming up. That, opens up a lot of your options for what's there.
Honestly, I'm not sure they're that much different, because to me, the number one thing this team needs is more capable, versatile wing defenders. And I think that would be the case whether Jared Vanderbilt you felt strongly would be available or not, because Cam Reddish and Max Christie, the two guys right now filling that role.
That was Andy Kamenetsky and Brian Kamenetsky, the brothers Locked On Lakers, having the debate there. Which side are you on? If they make a deal ASAP, should it be for center depth, or are you going wing defense, Matt?
I'm going to agree that it needs to be wing defense. So, look, I think AD would prefer to be a center. He doesn't want to play center. He wants to play at power forward. He wants that kind of size help. But they can get by with AD at 5. Like, they can definitely play well enough. I think part of it is just understanding this team is probably going to be an offensive squad. I just don't know that they're going to have the personnel. I can't see them adding a wing defender good enough to really reshape this team. They added Rui Hachimura, Vanderbilt, alongside the D'Angelo Russell trade a couple of seasons ago. That was like the move. And I just think it's going to be hard to find another wing defender. So instead, like, if you can add one, great, but you don't really need another big. You can probably get by, especially because from the people I've talked to in the league, center's a really hard position to get right now. Everyone knows how valuable those are. So it's hard to be able to get those. And the Lakers don't have many assets. I think wing is probably where they need to go. Just get somebody who's a decent defender who can also contribute offensively, because I think this is just going to be more of an offensive team this year.
I'm going to actually disagree a little bit. Like, not that I disagree that centers aren't more difficult to get. They are. And I want to be clear there. But I think that there are enough centers out there that could be available. And I do think that if you have a center there that can free up Anthony Davis a little bit more, he can help provide some of the defense as far as switching and switchability and things like that, as rim protection to help some of that wing defense that they need. Is he a wing defender outright? No. So it really depends on what the poison that the Lakers want to go with. Like, they're going to be players available out there in both positions. Theoretically, it just depends on how they want to attack it and go after. But I think that a center here, especially with you look at AD wanting to keep him as healthy as possible, getting another big in here that can bang could really help that part as well. And I think that may be really beneficial to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Two names that have been mentioned, not necessarily to the Lakers, but just as available centers, at least on the Locked On Podcast Network, have been Jonas Valanciunas from the Wizards and Jakob Poeltl, who is playing for the Raptors right now. Now, Locked On, they both had episodes on that very subject today, so go check those out. But on Locked On Wizards, they were basically begging Los Angeles to take Valanciunas and running through all the scenarios, while Jakob Poeltl seems to be more of a fit to stay in Toronto, but I'm interested in your opinions, Matt Hayes, on who the Lakers should target, who would be a better fit, who's the more available of those two. Maybe you have another name, Matt.
Yeah, so look, I'll just say this with Poeltl. I don't think it matters. You're not gonna be able to get him out of Masai with the assets that you have. Like, we know how Masai goes about these things. Even when he finally gave up the ghost on Siakam, and OG Anunoby, he's still got better return than what the Lakers have. Don't even bother wasting your time with trying to peel him out of there with a crowbar from Masai Ujiri in Toronto. JV's fine, but part of this idea, I think, with AD too is like, I could use help versus Jokic in the playoffs, who knocked them out 2 years in a row. Is Jonas Valanciunas going to change the equation for you versus Nikola Jokic? I like JV a lot. I think he's very good. It doesn't change that equation. You're better off trying to spread the floor and play 5 out. So I just don't necessarily see that either of those guys is going to be the impact guy. A lot of the problem, JV's on-off numbers have really kind of slid the last couple of years. And I don't necessarily think that there's a way to make it work with the personnel that the Lakers have even after a trade.
I like Pirtle the most here, but to Matt's point, it's going to be difficult to get him. But I have an alternate. We have a slightly used Nikola Vucevic that I keep trying to push onto somebody.
Every episode, Hayes is pushing poor Vucevic out onto the curb, being like, Well, I'll actually throw another name out there, though. When he gets back from injury, Nick Claxton would be a great pickup if they can get him from the Nets. And the Nets offer probably is a lot lower for Claxton than will be for other guys.
Final thing here, and it's a little bit of a fun thing, I guess, and a wild card. I didn't have this in the rundown, but I did see it in the news that LeBron James taking a pause from social media. He was lamenting the negativity around the NBA media in general, and particularly social media, so he's taking a pause. And so my question is very simple. Do you believe King James? Is he going to stay off social media?
He may be taking a break from posting on social media, but LeBron, there's no way that LeBron is taking a break from social media. He is way too entwined on social media to be no, LeBron is not being completely off social media. His posting may go down, but best believe LeBron is still out there lurking. There's no way I believe that he's not out there.
The funny part is this came after the whole Klingon thing where he's like, everybody thinks I'm lying all the time about these predictions. You could just tell that like one of his kids was showing him memes of people making fun of him. And he was like, that's it, I'm off. You want to know when LeBron will be back on social media? As soon as somebody offers him money to do so, that's when LeBron will be back on social.
That's going to do it for Locked On NBA. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts. That includes YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. And we're going to see you right back here to wrap up the week. Our favorite things tomorrow on Friday's edition of Locked On NBA.